Monster Hunter Wilds is still weeks away, and I decided to fill some of that time by playing another game in the monster hunting genre, Wild Hearts, and earning its platinum trophy. 49 total trophies from completing the story, to learning its unique mechanics on how it sets itself apart from Monster Hunter, and to no surprise, a long grind for an individual trophy. Let's see what Wild Hearts was all about. We dive right into the game as a nameless hunter, shown the general basics from movement to combat against smaller creatures before hearing some music. On our way to investigate, we find a small glowing cube on a mummified corpse and decide to take it with us. Finding the source of the music, there sits a person named Mujina. They briefly explain the land of Azuma is fraught with danger due to Kemono, in another word, monsters. The mountains and rivers are the source of their great power, land shaped to their will, rampant in these parts leaving few humans remaining, driven from what is now Kemono territory for lack of sustenance. After a short conversation about the hunter's origins and purpose, Mujina suggests a destination in mind, Minato. On our way there, parts of the land begin to shape due to the territorial craving of a Kemono, and we find the one responsible for the snowstorm, a wolf-like creature who quickly makes work of us with its fast attacks. This would unlock our first trophy, reaching the land of Azuma, where Kemono roam free. Weakened from the fight, it only gets worse as a gigantic mountain beast ruptures the land, causing the ground to fall beneath us, ultimately leaving us near death. Mujina appears above us and takes the glowing cube we picked up, weaving the seed into our soul, letting the spirits in the Karakuri join us. We regain consciousness and learn of the unique mechanic that sets this game apart. Fortnite building. It is actually called Karakuri. In this instance, we use it to build crates to scale up the cliffside. Karakuri are special devices. They come in various shapes and sizes, which you'll see later in our journey. While making our way to Minato, we come across an injured stranger. This is where we learn about dragon pits, allowing us to conjure dragon Karakuri, such as a tent and campfire. With everything set up, we get our first Kemono hunt, as it bursts through the terrain. Can't risk the Kemono potentially harming us, we must slay it. A rage tail. To no surprise, it is a simple fight with its swipes and jumps to its tail attacks. Successfully defeating the creature, we return to camp to find the stranger awake, Natsume, the local blacksmith of Minato, who came to collect materials, but the last thing she remembers is being knocked out when a Kemono attacked. Unfortunately, the bridge that connects to Minato is severely broken. She suddenly remembers about her guard, Ujishige-san, who will need to be rescued from a sap scourge. She offers to help improve our weapon before we seek out the Kemono. A raccoon-like creature with sap coursing through its body, leaving trails of it behind, leading us towards its den, where we find Ujishige-san. But first, we must slay the creature, which isn't too much of a problem with its slow attacks. Returning to camp, we rest before discussing about travelling to Minato, when a creature's roar can be heard. As we investigate the land, we would unlock the next trophy, Hidden History, for obtaining our first documents. Eventually, we would find the creature manipulating the environment with its vines, a king tusk. The first hunt of the game that truly tested me. It has long drawn out attacks that deal devastating damage and even with insane tracking. To no surprise, I would get knocked out several times and even back to back. My teammate would also get down, and I'd revive them, unlocking a trophy for reviving a fellow hunter for the first time. Another attempt, this time the fight gives me a Karakuri inspiration, a bulwark that stops the King Tusk's charge, stunning it, which is kinda hilarious. Eventually, after learning its moveset, we're able to take down the beast, and are now able to make it to Minato. Even though the bridge is destroyed, we can make a flying vine, allowing us to zipline to the other side. We would become a citizen of Minato, helping the community in a variety of ways. The town steward asks us to hunt a certain Kemono for its materials for the town to prosper. A spine glider, on the smaller size of the Kemono, but it still packs a punch with its aerial attacks and its water-projecting tail. I would also learn another inspiration, being the Pounder Karakuri, a hammer that quickly drops and deals damage in front of it. With the materials collected, we would visit Karakuri expert Suzuran, who elaborates further on the seed implanted within our body. The seed is very old, crystallization of wisdom amassed by the ancient hunters. It allows us to conjure and control Karakuri, to influence the ki that flows through the entire natural world. However, we're unable to conjure it within Minato. More importantly, the seed is embedded within our hearts, meaning if the Karakuri was to break, we would die. Despite this, we need to undertake a task, and before that, I would unlock a trophy while upgrading my gear, and that was for completing my first optional quest for a citizen of Minato, by giving them some materials. Onwards to our task, there is an old ruin on an island where the natural flow of ki has stagnated, and we need to clear the blockage. A particular material is required, in which we need to slay a lava back, a giant molten monkey, capable of throwing out blocks of lava. It has quick and agile attacks from rotating its fists to body slamming. To my surprise, we managed to defeat it on the first attempt, retrieving the material, then making our way to the ruin, where we see Mujina, who briefly explains the island is the sacred land of the ancient hunters. They were born, raised, and would die on the soil, but in time they expanded their horizons, crossing the sea to Azuma. The migration was only possible with the power of Karakuri, with the knowledge and technology possessed only by those hunters of old. Sadly, all that was, no longer is. The haven the hunters built for themselves in Azuma was washed away by the rain of 1,000 days, a great flood that covered all the land. What few hunters survived dispersed, taking with them what little knowledge remained of Karakuri. All that was left behind crystallized to become the seed. All that left behind now exists within us, and we only need to hunt for the seed to grow. Natsume and Suzerain finally make their way into the ruin. She explains why we're not able to conjure and command Karakuri anywhere. It is because it is tied to a form of energy known as celestial thread, the motive force behind all Karakuri. If there isn't enough of it, Karakuri doesn't work. The ruin appears to be a giant Karakuri, and can only imagine what it was, functioning as intended, until for some reason the celestial thread dried up. Potentially due to stagnation of ki in the ground. Ki and celestial thread are essentially the same thing, and if we fix it, the ruin should come alive. Legend says the place is an elaborate machine used to divert celestial thread to another location, being Minato. This is important because there are a variety of dormant Karakuri that will help the community thrive if awoken. With the celestial thread restored to Minato, our next task was to create a camp in the northern part of the region, where we encounter the gigantic mountain beast from the start of the game, which is seemingly the Kemono tied to records from centuries ago. It ripped across the land, all the people were swallowed in rock, the Earthbreaker. The hypothesis on why it is near Minato is due to the release of celestial threads. They sustain Kemono. Despite them being ubiquitous, the Earthbreaker's natural environment could possibly have no threads left, making Minato a place for the Earthbreaker to expand its territory, meaning we'll need to deal with it before it's too late. While Suzerain gathers the town to plan on how to retaliate, Natsume wants us to hunt a Kemono to get her resources to build a weapon to deal with the Earthbreaker. This Kemono would be a grit dog. Not so threatening with its relatively easy moveset, I'd unlock my next trophy by conjuring 200 basic Karakuri. With the material gathered, Natsume can craft the weapon while we report back to Suzerain to prepare. The next day, we engage in combat with the beast, using the ranged weapon to target its vulnerable spots, then launching bombs at it from afar. However, it doesn't do much as it destroys the cannons, putting the citizens in danger, meaning we must fight it up close, breaking its rocky armor to deal more damage, and dodge its powerful yet slow sweeps, eventually winning over the beast and unlocking a trophy. To celebrate, Minato holds one of its oldest rituals, a festival, when the bird of auspice can be seen flying above, which might just be a good omen. A new morning, and the steward would like us to help protect a group of carpenters she has summoned. They are skilled at building large structures and well versed in the use of Karakuri that will be needed to help bolster Minato in case of future attacks. On our way through the canyon, we unfortunately discover they have been split up by a Kemono, which ends up being a Rage Tail variant, the Spore Tail, covered in fungus and more aggressive, capable of summoning minions to harass us and potentially put us to sleep with their spores. However, it is no match for the new weapon I crafted, a cannon, as we repeatedly shoot it to its inevitable death. And we unlock a trophy for conjuring a total of 50 fusion Karakuri, like the Bulwark and Pounder. After successfully escorting the carpenters to Minato, Ujishige-san would like us to accompany him in getting some materials. However, danger is ahead as parts of the land have been freezing to a certain Kemono, the one from the start of the game, and which Ujishige-san also recognizes. It ends up fleeing. he decides to pursue it while we're ambushed by a Dreadclaw. Particularly annoying with its constant pressure and aerial attacks, yet we just managed to get through it first try. Ujishige-san says that Kemono, a Deathstalker, got away, and apologises for not helping us in the fight. That particular one he has history with, and wonders why it is a long way out from Fuyufusagi Fort. As this Kemono is far away from its natural habitat, it makes sense to investigate it, likely due to the lack of celestial threads. However, we cannot travel there yet due to the cavern collapsing from the Earthbreaker's advance. While the carpenters have begun to excavate the cavern, unfortunately a fume beak has stopped them from continuing. A huge crow that can inflict poison with its dives and swoops, but we successfully defeat the Kemono, allowing the cavern to be cleared and to access the new area with Ujishige-san. His history with the Deathstalker is that it slaughtered the clan he was once a part of, and turned the fortress once blooming with flowers into a snowy wasteland. He wishes to see it dead. This Kemono is no joke, a real test of strength as it decimated us almost immediately, meaning it was time for me to upgrade my equipment and accidentally unlock a trophy along the way, for finding my first talisman in the wilderness. Think of them like charms in Monster Hunter. Despite upgrading our equipment, we would still get destroyed by the Deathstalker with its fast, strong and unpredictable attacks with massive area of effect. Attempt after attempt, we would begin to learn its moveset and progressively scale up the fortress, making it even more tense and eventually landing the killing blow. While successful, 2 more Deathstalkers appear, and as we're about to flee, the Bird of Auspice appears, making for a great distraction, concluding the hunt with a trophy. Returning to Minato, we discussed that Kemono have been peaceful for years, but now they're starting to push violently into new territory, an alarming trend. The Bird of Auspice, also known as Amaterasu, is a different beast. Since the incident, the after effects of the conflict are showing disturbances in the weather and surrounding flora. Suzuran wants us to investigate the region to confirm any more abnormalities, in which they are true, an example being finding a king tusk in the frozen environment. I'd also unlock free trophies, such as using my gliding Karakuri to fly 150 meters, the second for inflicting a status ailment upon a Kemono 20 times, and the other for activating my hunter's arm 30 times. These glowing spots appear on a Kemono, and by climbing onto them we can use our hunter's arm to extract thread, allowing us to use even more Karakuri for a short time. On our return to Minato, we unfortunately come back to it in flames, caused by the Bird of Auspice. After assessing the damage and making sure everyone is safe, we discuss with Suzuran that the attack occurred because of celestial threads once more. To prepare for Amaterasu's return, we'll need to hunt mighty Kemono for new sources of materials to improve our equipment and the Karakuri within Minato. Basically Kemono we've already fought but stronger. The materials are required, and Natsume creates an additional weapon attached to an existing piece of Karakuri that will hopefully deal with the bird. Eventually, Amaterasu makes its appearance, and just like the Deathstalker, this thing absolutely ruins us, taking us several attempts to defeat it. It is fast and powerful, transforms to become stronger, allowing one of its attacks to one-shot. While dodging is of course important, it needs to be perfect here, as we cannot replenish our potions to regain health. Luckily, some of these buildings can be entered to gather composure, as well as create a healing mist, Karakuri. A new inspiration would happen, allowing the Karakuri to construct into a harpoon, dealing massive damage and temporarily stunning the beast. I'd also unlock a trophy for deflecting 20 Kemono attacks using Fusion Karakuri, then eventually slaying the bird for another one. We now need to rebuild Minato, and that means gathering materials, so we hunt more Kemono such as the mighty lavaback to the gold shard, a porcupine creature who spins like Sonic the Hedgehog and was surprisingly easy to defeat despite never having fought it before. I'd pick up several trophies such as awakening 20 types of Karakuri by accessing the skill tree, conjure a total of 1000 basic Karakuri ranging from crates, springs and gliders, completed my first food processing which increases the effectiveness of food. I'm surprised it took me this long to discover the feature. I also dyed my armor for the first time, as well as successfully finishing 30 kimono. One day as we're relaxing with Ujishige-san, the night sky turned a bright orange. A fire that had started because of two powerful beasts, the Ember Plume and the Golden Tempest. First we took on the Ember Plume. It engulfs itself with fire with its long-range beams. It can fly to gain an advantage in the fight, but the harpoon Karakuri takes care of that. It wouldn't be too long till we took on the Golden Tempest, and once again the game's difficulty curve hits like a truck. The Golden Tempest is agile. It has wind-based attacks that can hit you through terrain, a constant barrage of jumping attacks, making perfect rolls extremely important. After a few attempts, the Golden Tempest would be slain. We could finally have some well-deserved rest, yet there's another problem. A fire is raging out of control outside of Minato. On our way to investigate, it begins to rain heavily, and our hunter collapses. We wake up back in Minato, and Suzuran tells us the seed is behaving very erratically, practically shaking itself apart. The rain has been relentless since our collapse, and landslides are beginning to occur. Despite the fires being put out, there are now risks of floods. We're not sure why it's happening, but we need to rest first before investigating. Upon entering our home, Mujina appears. They say it is the rain of 1,000 days. Many moons ago, this same rain destroyed the land of the ancient hunters. It will destroy Minato and all of Azuma unless something is done. Atop of the sacred mountain, the one who makes the rain fall, the one they once tried and failed to defeat. Many hunters left that day to fight the source, and none returned. Life is created and destroyed, humans and Kemono alike will disappear without a trace if the cycle is not broken. Mujina entrusts us to break it and slowly vanishes. Upon travelling to the sacred mountain, we scale the slippery cliffside to reach the summit. I decide to create a camp near the top to unlock a trophy, for opening all possible camps in each area. Despite being able to create a camp anywhere in this game, there are specific locations for this trophy. As we prepare our equipment one last time, we see a serpent, known as the Celestial Dragon. While its gigantic stature seems terrifying, this is an advantage for us, allowing us to hit it pretty much anywhere. But if we want the bonus damage, we aim for either the head, legs or tail. It cycles through the seasons and elements as we weaken it over time. It tries everything from tail slams to fireballs and even lightning bolts. We defeat it, or so we thought, as the ground beneath us crumbles apart and we fall into a pool of water. Inside lies the celestial being, a humanoid Kemono that conjures Karakuri throughout the fight. It wields a sword to hit you at close range and attack from afar with its spell-like abilities. However, my claw blade allows me to easily maneuver out of the way and retaliate with huge damage, ultimately defeating the creature. The seed begins to glow in our chest as we conjure a Karakuri structure, releasing the celestial threads into the world. We collapse and are shown the ecosystems thriving, humans and Kemono at peace. Eventually our hunter wakes up, concluding the story and unlocking a trophy. It is now time to get the remaining trophies. These 5 upcoming ones are all relatively the same and easy. It was to control 15 Dragon Karakuri in Minato, then 30 in the remaining 4 areas. While Dragon Karakuri uses resources as shown in this table, we can use a cheap Karakuri to quickly build 30 of them in the areas, unlocking 5 trophies. Next, I caught 100 creatures in the wilderness. As we've been exploring the regions, there are small creatures from snakes to birds to insects, and by simply picking them up over time, it unlocked me the trophy. I also travelled 10,000 meters by Karakuri, such as using the flying vine and gliders. Then I enhanced a Tsukumo form to the maximum. I didn't know much about this considering I played most of the game multiplayer, but I assume it is like a palico. With the necessary materials, I unlocked the trophy. Following up on these, I had to find 200 of them, 50 in 4 of the areas of the game. Luckily, there is an upgrade for a hunting tower Karakuri that reveals the locations of them, yet it still took me several hours to find them all. Shortly after, I used a Karakuri attack 100 times, then developed every different restorative bath. This increases your maximum health. You unlock a few from playing throughout the game, gather a couple of items to unlock a few more, and upgrade your Tsukumo enough times to unlock the last one, therefore unlocking me the trophy. Back into the wilderness, if you sneakily walk up to a small Kemono, it gives you the prompt to pet it, and by doing it 30 separate times, you unlock a trophy. Next, I went for a multiplayer trophy, and that was to provide assistance 5 times to hunters. Think of them as the SOS signal in Monster Hunter. Then I went back offline to finish a mighty Kemono inside 5 minutes, as well as a Kemono before it could land a single attack on me. Sounds slightly difficult, but I had some of the strongest equipment possible and chose the easiest Kemono with its attack pattern. I also upgraded my weapon further by crafting an extremely valuable one for a trophy, the one specifically being created from the parts of the Celestial Dragon. Then I needed to craft more armor to influence the human path and kimono path infinities. By crafting these, this will take your armor in one direction, unlocking more skills when equipped. Next up, I had to obtain 90 seals from the Guild of Fisherman Jobs. These are optional objectives such as killing kimono in certain areas to crafting Karakuri. I then completed 20 quests online, as well as finish 50 kimono with a single weapon type. I was slaying a specific kemono as I needed their materials to upgrade a dragon pit as much as possible. Its function is to provide more resources to place down more dragon Karakuri that can help in a variety of ways, but we just need the trophy. I then had to take on the hardest trophy of the game that it had to offer, and that was to defeat Deeply Volatile Kemono. They have a 20-minute hunt time, a lot of health, and you only have one life, meaning if you die, you must restart. Before you can even access these types of kemono, you need to obtain keystones by killing volatile ones, which are harder than the mighty ones. The 4 deeply volatile kemono are variants of the Rage Tail, Dreadclaw, Gold Shard, and Deathstalker. I struggled with a few kemono in this game already, and this would seem like a daunting task, yet it wasn't. I had somewhat improved at the game, but also took the easier route by calling for assistance, and to my surprise, people joined to help. It makes the fights easier, as it allows you to not be constantly pressured by the kemono. If you were to die, there's a revive timer giving you a slight chance to recover. Just look how crazy this fight was against the Deathstalker. What? He had like a mega laser. Oh my god, we've done it. That's insane. Well, you know, does it really matter? And there we go, Vanquisher of the Volatile. Successfully hunted a deeply volatile kemono in all areas. Now, if I was to do that solo, that would probably take me hours upon hours, so thanks for the huntful assistance. In roughly an hour and a half, the 4 kemono would be defeated, unlocking me 2 trophies. The first for hunting my first deeply volatile kemono, and the second for hunting all of them. The next 2 trophies, I needed a lot of money, and this was done by selling most of the items I attained throughout this journey. I had to spend 30,000 on goods from the market, then complete all building extensions and restorations with the carpenters, which I needed 67,000. One last trophy before the platinum, and it is an unfortunate one. Successfully finish 300 kimono. At this point I looked. I'd only hunted 76, needing 224 more for the trophy, so I simply had to repeat a mission with the 3 weakest kemono to slay them within a couple of minutes, and play for hours upon hours before the platinum trophy was mine. Where's my trophy? There we go, Relentless Kemono Hunter and Wild Hearts. Obtained all trophies. I am glad that it's done, because... and a new milestone, let's go.